1. The American Girl. Nick Harmon stood at the back of the ship and watched England slowly disappear. "That was a really wonderful holiday," he said quietly. His wife, Claire, smiled. 2 weeks of rain in Cornwall, and you thought it was wonderful? Nick put an arm round her and laughed. "Well, okay. The weather was bad, but you can't have an English August without rain." He looked at his watch. "When do we get to Santander?" "Not until 6 o'clock this evening," answered Claire. "Then it's another 4 hours in the car to Madrid. It's going to be a long day." Nick looked down at the white water below them. "It's also the last day of our holiday," he said. Suddenly he felt Claire's hand on his arm. "Look," she said, and pointed to an old man on the other side of the ship. He was sitting in a red chair and reading a Spanish newspaper. "What is it?" asked Nick. "The Countess of Montalban has died," replied Claire. "It's on the front page of that man's newspaper." "Isn't her grandson, José Duero, one of your students?" Just then the old man stood up and put the newspaper under his arm. Quickly, Nick walked across to him. "Excuse me," he said in Spanish. "Could I borrow your newspaper for a few minutes?" The man smiled. "Yes, you can keep it, young man. But are you sure you want it? It's 10 days old." "Yes, I'm sure," said Nick. "Thanks." 5 minutes later, Nick and Claire were sitting in one of the ship's lounges. There were 2 cups of coffee and the Spanish newspaper on the table in front of them. "She was 94, said Claire. "Yes," replied Nick. "She was also one of the richest women in Spain. José told me once about a pair of her earrings. What did he call them? Oh, yes. The Eyes of Montezuma. That was it." "The Eyes of Montezuma," repeated Claire softly. Nick looked up from the newspaper. The 2 biggest diamonds in Spain. They came from Mexico about 200 years ago and have been in the family since then. He turned the page. "Well, until now," he continued quietly. "It says here, 'The Countess has given her famous earrings, the Eyes of Montezuma, to the Prado Museum in Madrid.' Look, there's a photo." Claire put down her coffee cup and looked. In a glass case there were 2 very beautiful diamonds. It was only a black and white photo, but the diamonds shone like cold white fires. "The Eyes of Montezuma," she repeated slowly. "What a wonderful name." "Excuse me, could I sit at your table? All the others are full." Nick and Claire both looked up. There in front of them was a girl of 18 or 19. She was pretty, with short dark hair and bright eyes. "Yes, please do," said Claire, and took her bag off the chair beside her. "Thanks," said the girl. She put a glass of milk on the table and sat down. "Hi, I'm Shelley Maughan." Her voice was American, and she was wearing a T-shirt with a picture of James Dean on the front. "Hello," said Nick. "I'm Nick Harmon, and this is my wife, Claire." The girl smiled at both of them, then pointed at the newspaper on the table. "Please, don't let me—" "No, that's okay. "We've finished," said Claire. The three travellers began talking. First, Nick and Claire told Shelley about their home in Madrid and their jobs. "Nick's an English teacher, and I work in a hospital," said Claire. "We've lived in Spain for almost 2 years now." Then Shelley told them about her life in the United States. She was a student at the University of California and lived in Los Angeles. "This is my first time in Europe without my parents," she said with a small smile. "My family has friends in Zaragoza, and I'm going to stay with them for a month." After about 20 minutes, Claire said, "Would you like to stay and have lunch with us?" "Okay," Shelley said. "Thanks. Thanks a lot. But first I must get my bag. I left it in the car." She laughed. "I have this little yellow Fiat. I bought it in England. And do you know why I chose it? I'm STM, Shelley Theresa Mahn, and the letters on the car are STM too." She laughed again and stood up. 2 minutes, okay?" Then she turned and walked out of the lounge. But Shelley Mahn didn't come back after 2 minutes, or 10, or 20. Nick and Claire waited, but in the end they had lunch without her. "I don't understand it," said Nick when they left the restaurant. "Neither do I," replied Claire. She was so friendly. Several hours later, they arrived at Santander in the north of Spain. It was early in the evening, but still very hot. In their car, the Harmons were waiting to leave the ship and begin the road journey to Madrid. Suddenly, Nick said, "That's strange." "What's strange?" replied Claire. "That Fiat," Nick answered. "The yellow one. 2 cars behind us." "Didn't Shelley say her car was a yellow Fiat?" Claire turned and looked. N754 STM, she said quietly. "It is her car." Then she noticed the driver. It wasn't Shelley Mahn. It was a big, dark-haired man wearing sunglasses.